Two bones, one arm, and a single fall just shattered both of them clean through. This is a real X-ray, a portable film taken right in the trauma bay. Look closely. The ulna is snapped and shifted out of line. The radius is broken too, just above it. This is called a both-bone forearm fracture, and it's one injury surgeons almost never treat with just a cast. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly why, and how two thin metal plates rebuild an entire arm from the inside out. To understand this injury, you need to understand what the forearm actually does. The radius and ulna aren't just two parallel bones. They're a rotating pair. When you turn a doorknob or flip your palm up to catch a coin, the radius spins around the ulna. That motion is called pronation and supination. It only works if both bones keep their exact shape, their length, their subtle natural curve called the radial bow. Break one of them badly, and rotation suffers. Break both, and the entire mechanism can seize up completely. Most both bone fractures come from high-energy trauma, a fall directly onto an outstretched hand, a direct blow to the forearm, a motorcycle or car collision. The forces are strong enough to snap through solid bone in two places at once. These injuries are sometimes called perifractures when someone raises an arm to block a blow, though most cases here are from falls or vehicle impacts. Emergency teams treat any suspected both bone fracture as urgent because the surrounding soft tissue swells fast and can complicate surgery if repair is delayed too long. On this X-ray, you can see the ulna fracture sits in the mid to distal shaft, with the fragments overlapping instead of sitting end to end. That overlap is called displacement, and it tells the surgeon this bone did not just crack, it moved. There's a thin sheet of tissue connecting the radius and ulna along their entire length, called the interosseous membrane. Think of it as a suspension cable holding the two bones in perfect relative tension. A high-energy fracture like this one doesn't just break bone, it often stretches or tears that membrane too. If surgeons ignore that membrane during repair, the whole forearm can stay unstable even after both bones are technically fixed. Here's how the diagnosis actually happens. In the emergency department, a portable X-ray machine is wheeled straight to the patient's bedside. No walking to radiology. No delay. You can see the label right on this film, portable. That single word tells you this patient could not be moved safely. A single AP view like this one gives the first clue, but it's never the whole story. Surgeons always want a second view, a lateral film, taken from the side. Why? Because a single view can hide rotation. Two overlapping bones can look aligned from the front and be twisted 30 degrees from the side. There's also a specific pattern surgeons are hunting for every single time. It's called a Monteggia fracture. That's when the ulna breaks and the radial head up near the elbow pops out of joint entirely. Miss that dislocation, and the whole reconstruction fails, even with a perfect ulna repair. So before any plan is made, the team checks the elbow, checks the wrist, and confirms exactly which bones are involved. There's another check that happens at the same time, and it has nothing to do with the X-ray at all. The surgeon feels for a pulse at the wrist and tests whether the fingers can still feel light touch. A forearm this swollen carries a real risk of compartment syndrome, pressure building up inside the muscle compartments until blood flow gets cut off. That's a surgical emergency on its own, separate from the fracture itself, and it can cost a hand its function within hours if missed. So every one of these patients gets watched closely for pain that feels far worse than the injury should explain. Now here's the real question. Why does an adult with this fracture almost always go to surgery, not a cast? In children, bone is still growing. Their bones can slowly straighten themselves out over months through a process called remodeling. Adult bone cannot do that. Whatever position it heals in is permanent. Even a few degrees of malalignment changes how the radius and ulna interact. Rotation can drop by 20% or more. That doesn't sound dramatic until you try to turn a key, or flip a pancake, or rotate your wrist to shake someone's hand. So for adults, the standard of care is open reduction and internal fixation, ORIF for short. Translation: open the arm, put the bone back exactly where it belongs, and hold it there with metal. There are other fixation options on paper. Intramedullary rods, inserted through the center of the bone, or external fixators, with pins sticking out through the skin. But for both bone forearm fractures in adults, Plates and screws remain the gold standard almost everywhere in the world. The reason comes back to that rotation problem. Plates allow the surgeon to restore the exact curve and length of each bone under direct vision. Rods and external frames simply can't control rotation with the same precision. Here's the part most people get wrong about this surgery. You'd think the hardest part is simply lining the bone back up. It isn't. The hardest part is restoring that subtle curve in the radius, the radial bow, down to the millimeter. Get that curve even slightly wrong, and the patient can lose real rotation for life, even though the X-ray looks perfectly healed. And there's a second hidden danger most patients never hear about: the nerves running right through this surgical field. The radial nerve, the posterior interosseous nerve. Both sit dangerously close to the exact bone being exposed. One wrong retraction, and a patient wakes up with permanent weakness in their fingers. This is precision surgery in the truest sense. Surgeons train for years specifically on this exposure, practicing the exact plane between muscles long before touching a real patient. That's why both bone forearm fractures are almost always handled by orthopedic trauma specialists, not general surgeons on call. So let's walk through exactly what happens once the patient is asleep. Step 1. The surgeon starts with the ulna, because it sits just under the skin and is easier to access safely. A single incision is made along the subcutaneous border, right where you can feel the bone through your own skin. The fracture fragments are exposed, cleaned of clot and debris, then carefully manipulated back into their original position. Step 2. A metal plate, pre-contoured to match a normal ulna, is placed directly across the fracture line. Screws are driven through the plate and into solid bone on both sides of the break, locking everything in place. Step 3. The surgeon moves to the radius, which is far more delicate territory. A separate incision is made, usually along the front of the forearm, through what's called the Henry approach. This route was designed specifically to slide between muscles and tendons without cutting through them, protecting those critical nerves. The radius fracture is exposed, and here's where that radial bow becomes critical again. The surgeon uses a pre-bent plate matched to a normal radius curve as a template to restore that exact shape. Screws are placed on either side of the fracture, compressing the fragments together for maximum stability. Step 4. Fluoroscopy. A live X-ray camera confirms both bones are aligned and both plates sit exactly where they should. The surgeon rotates the forearm right there on the table, checking that full pronation and supination have actually been restored. Step 5. The incisions are closed in layers, muscle to fat to skin, and a splint or light cast protects the arm short-term. Throughout the entire case, blood loss is watched closely, and antibiotics are given to guard against infection around the new hardware. Surgeons also count instruments and needles twice before closing, a routine safety check that happens in every operating room every single time. Unlike a simple cast, these plates aren't temporary. In most adults, they stay in the arm permanently, quietly doing their job for life. Healing at the bone level typically takes 12 to 16 weeks before the fracture is considered solid, but function often returns faster. Physical therapy usually begins within the first couple of weeks, focused on gently restoring that rotation. Early therapy focuses on simple motion, bending the elbow, wiggling the fingers, nothing that stresses the healing bone. By 6 weeks, most patients start gentle rotation exercises, slowly reteaching the radius and ulna to spin around each other again. Full strength typically takes 4 to 6 months to return, especially for anyone doing manual labor or heavy lifting. Not every case is complication-free. Non-union, where the bone fails to heal, happens in a small percentage of patients and may need a second surgery. Some patients also develop stiffness in the wrist or elbow if therapy starts too late or stalls partway through. That's why the surgical team and the physical therapist stay in close contact for months after the operation, not just during recovery from the anesthesia. Most patients do eventually return to work, sports, and daily tasks without restriction, especially when the surgery happens quickly after injury. Delaying treatment even by a few days can let swelling and early scarring make the reduction harder to achieve cleanly. The goal was never just to fix a broken bone. It was to rebuild a rotating machine, down to the millimeter. And when it's done right, Most patients get their full range of motion back turning a key, flipping a pan, shaking a hand, without ever thinking twice about the two plates holding it all together. If this breakdown gave you a new appreciation for what your own forearm is quietly doing every single day, hit subscribe for more real case surgical breakdowns. Drop a comment if you want the Monteggia fracture explained next, the one injury that turns this exact surgery into something far more complicated.